Hey, friends! Just so you know, we enjoy the swear word and we rely on good old fashioned humor to get through some seriously dark subject matter. At no time do we intend any disrespect toward the victims or families of the victims in the cases we cover. Also, be sure to listen to the end for a few palate cleansing bloopers to reset your mindset. And with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you enjoy.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Crime Will Tell. I'm Jamie.
I'm Carrie.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I had smooth flights home today, except for a bit of a
Nice.
delay in Chicago, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
you're
okay. It was
there.
fine.
You look.
Gorgeous weather here today.
Yes, you look great.
Why, thank you.
You're
Look at you
welcome.
being all kind again.
I
What got across?
know.
You got a hair across your ass or
I guess
something. I
so.
like
Yeah.
that. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Okay. Are you ready for a case that might frustrate the shit out of you?
Yeah. So you gave me a little bit of a teaser that apparently I'm not going to have closure at the end of
Yeah,
this.
you're gonna feel a little unsettled by this one.
Okay. Well, let me crack my beer open. Are you drinking bourbon?
I am. I'm trying some Elijah Craig small batch bourbon.
Oh, I've heard of Elijah Craig. I haven't ever
Yeah.
had it, but
Yeah, I hadn't had it either.
is it smooth? Is it spicy? What is it?
It's smooth.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I enjoy
I'm
it.
gonna have
When
to
I
try
see you
that.
next, we should do like bourbon swaps, and when we
We
see each
should do
other,
bourbon. Yeah.
just be like, here's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then we can try different ones.
Yeah. I like that idea.
So you cracked that beer, but what are you drinking?
Michelob Ultra.
Yeah, Old Faithful.
Yeah, Old Faithful. I wasn't feeling bourbon today.
That's okay.
I don't know. I was feeling like something crisp and light. So
Is it hitting the spot?
I just cracked it. So I don't know yet.
Oh, well, fucking take a sip and let me know.
Well, cheers, my friend.
Cheers to you. Clink.
Clink. Mm hmm. Mm hmm. Yeah, that hits the spot. Ah, that's
Good,
delicious.
good,
Mm
good.
hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. Okay. So this case was suggested by our listener, Karen Starnes. So thank you,
Yes,
Karen.
Karen. Thank you for being patient. We're finally getting to this
Yeah,
one.
finally. And this case has been covered a lot, so you may have heard about it, but it's a unique one and it's ongoing. And honestly, it's a case that I am completely shocked that it hasn't been solved yet. And so even as much as it's been covered, there really isn't a ton of information that's officially been released about this case. So you're going to hear me use the word speculated a lot in this episode. Really, what little information that has been released kind of leaves you just like, what? What? And that's the feeling that I have about this
Oh,
case. Are you ready?
I'm not sure. I don't know that Michelob Ultra is going to get me through this. We might have to go get something stronger. So, who's our victim?
This is the case of Missy Bevers.
You said that it's been covered a lot. I don't think I know this one. All right, well, let's fucking dive in.
All right.
Let's tell her story.
Yeah. So this case takes us back to 2016. So it's a more recent case, but
Yeah.
it's 8 years at this point, to Midlothian, Texas. And like I said, this is the ongoing murder investigation of 45-year-old Terry Missy Bevers. She went by Missy, so that's how we will refer to her. Midlothian is a small city that's about 25 miles southwest of Dallas. And in 2016, it had a population around like 18,000. So it's really a pretty small city. So in June of 1998, Missy married Brandon Beavers, and she ended up getting her teaching certificate in special education. She had a bachelor's degree, but then ended up getting her certificate as well in special education. She taught school for about 3 years until their first daughter, Hannah, was born in 2001. So she ended up quitting teaching to take care of their daughter. And they ended up having two more daughters, Allison, who was born in 2003, and finally Sarah in 2007. So they raised their three girls in Red Oak, Texas, which was, I believe, about like 20 miles east of Midlothian. So they didn't live in Midlothian, but it's where this case takes place. And Missy absolutely loved being their mom. Her family and her faith were the most important things to her. And she was known to just be incredibly kind, generous, and a great motivator to all of the people around her. So just a very positive, kind spirit.
So I'm already doing the maths here. Hannah, the oldest, was, you said this took place in 16 and she was born in '01. She was only
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
The middle child was 13. And then the youngest one was 9.
Yeah.
Those are, oh my God. And they lost their mom. Oh, man.
Yeah. And there's
Okay.
not much about her daughters, which is good.
Yeah, I like that. Let's protect them.
So Missy was super into health and fitness, and she loved helping other people get healthy. As her daughters got a little bit older and had start, they'd all were in school, her love of working out became a bigger focus and passion for her. And she loved inspiring other people to get into shape. So she became a fitness trainer and started teaching Camp Gladiator fitness classes.
That's a rad name.
And so this was kind of designed as like an outdoor boot camp style course that typically went on for like 4 weeks, I believe. And she taught a few mornings a week at the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian. She wasn't a member of this particular church, but it's where the classes were held.
Mm,
And they started early, like 5 o'clock in the morning early.
dedicated.
Yeah, and so that meant that Missy, of course, had to be there even earlier to set
Yeah.
up for the classes. And she had a Facebook page for her, these courses where she would post information or updates about the dates and times and locations of the courses and just any changes that might come up. So on Sunday, April 17th of 2016, Missy posted that night that they were still going to exercise gladiator style the following morning, even if it was raining, but they would be moving the class indoors. So it looked like the weather was going to be kind of shitty. So she was just like, heads up, we're still fucking training. No excuses. So these classes normally took place outside of the church in the parking lot. But the following morning, so Monday, April 18th of 2016, it was storming pretty bad. So she was going to set up for the class inside of the church. Missy arrived in the parking lot around 4:16 a.m.
Man.
And she lived like 20 miles away, so that girl was up early. So she parked her truck outside the front entrance and started carrying in the equipment for the class, just a few minutes after she arrived. Just after 5 o'clock that morning, some of the campers, which is what she called the people that took her classes, showed up at the church ready to sweat with Jesus. And her truck was still parked out front, so they knew she was there and that the building would likely be open. But when they walked inside, they ended up finding Missy lying unresponsive in a pool of blood on the floor with puncture wounds to her head and her chest.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, they immediately dialed 911 and paramedics were dispatched to the church. But unfortunately, there was nothing they could do to save Missy, and she was pronounced dead at the scene.
Oof.
So, police were obviously then called to the church, which was now a crime scene. Doing a search through the building, they discovered broken glass and they could tell that someone had forced their way in through another door of the church. Some reports said that it was a side door, others said it was a back door. I don't fucking know. But it was another door
Mhm.
besides the main entrance.
Okay.
So, police also learned that the church had motion triggered security cameras inside of the church. Unfortunately, at that time, the outside cameras were not working.
Ah,
They weren't able to see a vehicle or how somebody actually approached the building. And police, spoke with other businesses and residents near the church, trying to find any additional surveillance, but they had no luck. However, they had the footage from inside. So, of course, they're like, hot dog, let's see who did this. It seemed like, bam, we're going to nail this fucker, right?
you're setting me up. I can feel it.
Once they started watching it, they were more like, what the balls is this? The footage showed someone in full police gear, like head to toe, ready for a riot SWAT gear. Helmet, bulletproof vest with police written across the back, the whole deal. And they were just kind of aimlessly roaming through the halls of the church, carrying what appeared to be a hammer or something similar in their hand. The suspect was first spotted on the cameras around 3:50 that morning. And this person was just tooting around. They were trying door handles to rooms to see if they were locked. Sometimes they'd go in and like peek in, walk out. Sometimes they'd leave the door wide open. They were just wandering around.
That's because that person was waiting.
Yeah, and they're, like, walking like a little kid sometimes, like, brushing their hand against like a kid does at school,
Oh,
like,
that's
walking down the
fucking
hallway.
creepy.
It was just weird, and at one point, they used what appeared to be the hammer or whatever other the weapon was that they had with them and a crowbar to break into one of the rooms and, like, ended up just breaking out one of the windows on the like, just
So just general mayhem
yeah, and just
for
no
no
rhyme
reason.
or reason.
Huh. I don't like this guy.
It was like a nosy person walking through someone's house when they
Opening
aren't
the
home.
medicine
Yeah,
cabinet.
like if someone's house sitting and they just decide to take, like, a
Like,
little
what's in this
tour.
bedside table?
It didn't seem like they were focused on finding anything in particular. It didn't seem like they were on any sort of time crunch, just lollygagging.
Did they seem like they were under the influence of something?
Possibly. That's, like, one thing that was kind of speculated, but not really. It just seemed like they were just, like, fucking bored.
Huh. Okay.
And towards the end of the video, they can be seen carrying like a small white box. Like I can't even describe what it would have been for, but it was like they didn't have it in the beginning and then they had it at the end.
Like a ring box?
No, like
Like,
maybe more of like a box that checks would come in or something, but maybe a
oh,
little bit longer.
okay. Okay. So rectangle, but
Yeah.
not very big.
No. And it was
Okay.
like then they just had it and it's unclear what the box was, if it was something that they brought in with them, something that they picked up inside the church. It has no relevance to the case at this point, but it's just weird.
It's odd.
It may make sense at some point, who knows, but I'm just trying to give like all of the details that
Okay.
are known. So, eventually like after Missy had arrived at the church, the perpetrator can then be seen walking down a hallway alone and likely out of the building through the same door that they broke into. There are some reports that Missy can be seen walking into the church and down a hallway, but it seems like maybe as she moved, she wasn't close enough to the motion sensors to trigger all of the cameras.
Hmm.
So, unfortunately, most of what happened after she entered the building wasn't recorded. From
Ugh.
everything that I've seen about this case, there doesn't seem to be footage of the actual murder or the time that Missy encountered the suspect. But again, there are rumors and speculations all over the place that some people wonder if there isn't footage that police are just
Okay. So we've
hiding
got
completely.
SWAT guy Steve on video
Mhm.
tooting around in the church before 4 a.m. We see Missy arriving around 4:16, walking into the church, and then she was found by campers around 5.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the good news is that that is a pretty narrow window.
Yeah.
There's 44 minutes in which she was murdered.
Mhm.
Okay.
So there's some speculation that Missy interrupted a burglary and was killed as a result. Churches often have like expensive audio and video equipment. And this was also a Monday morning, so it's possible that they intended to steal the offerings from the church service the day before. The suspect didn't appear to take anything. It
Yeah.
didn't seem like they were looking for something in particular. And it's not like they had a duffel bag and were walking around looking for something specific.
Yep. I don't buy it because if he really was going to burgle, is that a word? It should
It
be.
is because I like
If he
it.
was going to burgle the church, he would have come in with a bag, like you said. He would have gone straight to where he thought he would start looking.
Mhm.
We would see him on camera grabbing shit, filling his bag, and he would get he Burglars get in and get out. They don't roam the hall and like act like a fifth grader walking down the hall and like,
Yeah, you don't
you know,
fart around when
opening
you're
doors and
committing a crime like
yeah.
that.
He was waiting. He was waiting.
And on top of that, Missy's truck was eventually searched, and her keys, phone, purse, a gun, her iPad, all of the workout equipment, and other items were still in it. Her wedding ring was still on her hand. Like, if they
Yeah.
were there to
Sent to
rob
robbery.
stuff, they could have easily taken the truck. They could have, taken so many things.
Mhm.
So, to me, just like you said, this seemed like a planned attack against Missy and not a robbery. But again, nothing in this case is very clear. So, as the footage was looked at over and over and just being analyzed, it was determined that the gear the suspect was wearing was not legit police equipment. So, it's likely that it was either a costume or something that was pieced together from maybe like an army or police surplus store.
How do they know that?
One thing that came up was that the helmet that they're wearing is really shiny, like,
Uh-huh.
as the lights reflect off of it, and SWAT equipment, theirs are more of, like, a matte finish so that they don't reflect, so they're easier to, like, make it through the night undetected,
Okay, that makes sense.
and the way they
Okay.
were moving in it, they didn't
Hmm.
seem comfortable, like, I think that SWAT people kind of have a swagger because they're used to wearing the 40 pounds of equipment or whatever that they've got on them.
So this guy was a big fat phony.
They didn't have a gun, and like I said, the vest on the back had police, the word police written. I don't know if there was something about, like, the size of it or whatever
Mm.
that maybe just didn't match, like, what legit
They were
police
just like,
equipment
"No,
would
no,
look
no,
like.
this is all wrong." And also, I've never seen a SWAT Steve or a SWAT Sally carry a hammer.
Right, exactly. So, the disguise worked quite well. So well that police have been unable to determine if the suspect was male or female.
Fuck! I do not like this.
Their face was hidden by the helmet, so it's not like anyone can look and be like, "That's fucking Nancy.
Were they
God
wearing
damn it."
sunglasses too or something?
I don't think so.
And I'm guessing the cameras were up high, so
Yes,
looking
yeah.
down. So you're looking down
Mhm.
on top of the helmet. They couldn't even tell if it was male or female just by the way this person was
Nope.
moving or walking?
Mm-mm.
That's
Nope.
so unusual.
Yeah, and so they brought in experts and were trying to have them analyze this video and see if they could get any, like, physical description of the suspect. And so, based on their height compared to, like, the doorways and different things in the church, investigators estimated that the suspect was between 5'2" and 5'8",
Oh, for the
which is
love of God.
still, yeah, a pretty hearty gap.
Yeah.
And I mean, this would be pretty average height for a female or below average for a male, but they're wearing heavy boots, they're wearing a helmet, like, it's hard to really gauge, and like we said, the cameras are pointing downward, which might alter.
It might make them look shorter than they really are.
Yeah, and there
Yeah.
was, like, an expert that was brought in. They had, like, someone walk normally, like, just in their normal clothes, whatever, and then had them walk with police equipment on, and it actually, like, impacted their height because you walk differently because if you're not used to that weight of
Yeah.
the equipment, it actually, like, might make you slump down a little bit
Yeah.
more.
That makes sense.
So, it's not really an accurate thing, and they also say a lot of people are like, they might be a little overweight. But again, it's hard to tell if they were a little chubby or if it's just the bulky gear that they're wearing.
Mhm.
There's nothing that
So
sticks
this
out that
ass
you could.
clown nailed it with the costume, basically.
Yeah, they did a
Okay.
good job. So police ended up they decided to release a portion of the video footage in hopes of getting, some information from the public. So between the police attire or, familiar movements or mannerisms from the suspect, they really hoped that they were going to get some leads from people in the community, especially because the person had a very unique walk. Their
Okay.
feet seemed to kind of turn outward as they walk. So, like, kind of the opposite of being pigeon-toed, like, their feet
Anti
kind of,
pigeon.
yeah, like a crow. They're crow-toed. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Okay.
They got pelican feet. And they seem to have what could be kind of a subtle limp. So with each step, their right
Huh.
foot turned out a little bit, and it's almost like their right leg like swung out a little bit, maybe from a previous leg or foot injury.
Huh. That's a pretty unique characteristic.
Exactly. So I think that truly police were like, somebody is going to know exactly who the fuck this is. And here we are 8 years later, still don't know for sure. But anyway, there's actually a lot of, again, speculation that the suspect is a female, just due to the estimated height and what people see as kind of more of a feminine walk. And so
Okay.
you'll have to watch the video. There's these videos are on YouTube. You can see the
You
suspect
bet your sweet ass I'm gonna
walking
watch that
around. I
video.
invite everyone else to watch it.
Yeah.
You can get a good sense of it. And I agree. I think that I can't wholeheartedly say, oh, that's definitely a dude or that's definitely a female, but I can certainly see how it could be a female.
Okay.
I don't know. I just,
And I'm, like, skeptical that you can't tell if it's a male or female. So, I'm really intrigued to watch this video.
yeah. And as far as like the walk, I mean, part of me thinks that anyone who's not used to wearing that kind of equipment, it might impact their walk. If you're not used to wearing really heavy gear, or, maybe they're used to wearing comfy Crocs and they're not used to wearing these tight, thick boots. If they're not broken in, maybe their feet were hurting and it impacted their walk a little bit. Part of me just trying to come up with every scenario, like, what if they were walking with a slight limp on purpose, trying to
Oh,
throw investigators off?
yeah.
If they knew that there were cameras in the building and they were making huge efforts to conceal their appearance, why not walk with a fake fucking limp?
It's a good point.
I mean, it wasn't like an over the top, like, fucking wooden leg limp that would be like, okay, obviously they're faking, good God.
Mhm.
And if they did it on purpose, then they fucking nailed it because it's been like the focus of this investigation from day
Hmm.
one.
And it's been 8 years and they can't find somebody that walks with a weird limp.
It's strange because they went to so much effort to hide their face and their body, but they had to have known that they had a unique walk.
That's a really good point.
I don't know, it just seems kind of strange that, there are just certain people that you could see walking a mile ahead of you at Disney World or something, and you could be like, "That is Ron. Holy shit." You know what I mean? Like, you
Exactly.
just know.
Yes. You know somebody's walk.
Yeah. And so, of course, in murder investigations, there's often information that police withhold because they want to hang on to the things that only the killer would know so that they know that they have their suspect when that
They
time
have
comes.
to.
Yeah, so I totally get that. And maybe that's the case here. I don't know. Sometimes there are people who like to come forward and admit to committing crimes that they weren't involved with at all. Why? I don't know. So when they give their, quote unquote confession and say, here's how I did it, police can be like, no, you fucking didn't. Run along, stupid. We know that that's not how
Mhm.
it happened. Whatever.
Which I think is really critical in cases.
Yeah.
They have to be able to definitively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because otherwise it's not gonna hold up in court.
Yeah. It would be helpful to know what complete footage they have, just to know if the interaction between Missy and the perpetrator was caught on camera at all. Because I think that you would know, like, if she recognized the person, if there was a confrontation, there would be things that would maybe help connect the dots a little bit. And Missy was in fantastic shape. If you look her up, girl had arms like crazy. She was fit. And I definitely think she could have easily, outran Frumps McGee in the police equipment and gotten away, or she could have fought like hell, but there's no information about the actual attack. It doesn't say if they snuck up on her, if she heard them coming, if there was a struggle. Like, there's no information about that at all.
I think you're right. If there is video coverage of the perpetrator and Missy interacting, you'll be able to tell. Well, I don't know. You can't fucking tell if it's a man or a woman, but I would think you could be able to tell if she knew that person
Yeah,
just by body language, right?
right. Also, you would be able to gauge maybe how they knew each other or what their
Mhm.
intentions were because they were obviously trying to hide themselves from the cameras from getting caught, but they
Mhm.
may have very well wanted them to see, like, her to see them.
Either way, she would have been surprised because again, this was for something in the morning.
Right, yeah, no one should have been there.
Uh-uh. Yeah. Whether she knew this person or not, it would have
Yeah,
been surprising.
and so this was a weird part of the story, but it comes up in, like, everything you read or see about it, so I gotta mention it. Police released the surveillance footage of the suspect walking through the church. They ended up releasing a second video to the public, and this video showed a suspicious vehicle. It was like a silver Nissan Altima that was captured on surveillance video prior to the murder. And it was creeping through the parking lot of a store called SWFA Outdoor Store. I think they probably sold like hunting stuff and whatever, but it was primarily known as being a gun store. So, a
Hmm.
place that someone potentially could have been staking out to rob, of course. This gun store was about a mile from the church where the murder took place. The vehicle was seen on these cameras entering the gun store's parking lot just before 2 o'clock the morning of the murder, and then leaving 6 minutes later. The person driving the vehicle turned off the headlights as they drove into the parking lot. And then it just kind of slowly started driving around the building. It turned its lights back on for a second and then turned them back off when they saw another vehicle parked in the back of the building. Like they were just kind of being weird, trying to be sneaky maybe by turning off their headlights, but it was actually drawing more attention by turning off their lights and creeping around. And they ended up parking underneath a light in the parking lot. So if they were trying to be discreet, they shouldn't have parked under a halo of parking lot lights. It's like they couldn't decide whether they should be sneaky or not and sat right under that fucking light. But after sitting there for a few minutes, the vehicle then left the parking lot and turned back onto the main road. Unfortunately, the video doesn't show a clear image of the driver. It did show what people have pointed out as maybe the driver's seat being pushed back really far. Like a tall person was driving, which wouldn't match the description of the person involved in Missy's case. This video hasn't really like officially been tied to her case, but they are seeking the driver of that vehicle in questioning for her murder. They don't really give any indication as to why. They can't say like we think that that might be the suspect. We
Yeah.
It might be the driver who dropped somebody off and they came back and picked them up. The store didn't get broken into. There was nothing. It didn't say why that vehicle even made any connection to what happened at the church down the road.
I feel like they're grasping at straws because they don't have anything.
But
Yeah.
again, it's just like it keeps coming up and they're like, this person isn't a suspect. We just want to question them.
Which
And
I'm super stoked that they're like digging. They're trying.
yeah, my guess would be that these aren't related. They were kind of connecting the two for whatever reason. Maybe there was just two weird things going on in the middle of the night at close locations, but there's no
Hmm.
clear indicator as to why they might be connected. But I want to mention it because again, I'm just trying to
It could be a detail that's important down the road.
yeah, I think this was someone who knew that Missy would be inside that church that day and was familiar with her schedule. I mean, she posted on Facebook the night before when the class was, where it was going to be, that it was going to be likely indoors if it was raining. It was fucking raining. Whoever's in that group, someone that might follow the fitness page on Facebook, like it was not going to be a big mystery as to where she was going to be that morning. Someone could easily
Mhm.
find that information out or pass it along to someone. And someone who knew that there were cameras inside the church, and so they'd need to disguise themselves.
Mhm.
Either someone who knew her or someone who was sent there by someone who did. So police are trying to figure
Mm.
out who would have wanted Missy dead. And of course, they first start with her husband, Brandon. He was actually in Biloxi, Mississippi on a fishing trip. It was a trip that he takes every year with some of his friends. So he obviously didn't kill her, but they needed to, look into
Mhm.
him, possibly arranging for someone to do it while he was gone. But investigators have never been able to find any evidence linking Brandon to the murder of his wife. And in fact, that morning, the campers that had shown up and found Missy's body called 911, and one of them ended up calling Brandon as well. And I think they must have been in shock and not relaying a lot of information, but they had told him that Missy was in an accident. And so he thought that she'd been in a car wreck, and he ended up renting a car in Mississippi and driving like the 9 hours back to Texas. He'd called his, I think it was his sister. He was like, I'm on my way back. Can you go hang out with my girls? My girls are in bed at home, and I want somebody to be there with them when they find out that something's happened to their mom. But he didn't know that like she'd been murdered in the church, whatever. He didn't know that until he'd already started his journey back. So, of course, police, started digging into their marriage and their personal lives. They searched through Missy and Brandon's text messages and their emails based on the messages that were recovered and tips that they had gotten from the public. There seemed to be possible financial and marital struggles. Brandon later denied that there were any issues with money, but he didn't really ever say anything about the allegations of infidelity. He never elaborated on those allegations. So it
Mhm.
kind of seemed like there was something more there. Warrants were issued that targeted 11 different phone numbers, but nothing seemed to come of that. So it's like they had these people that they were like just these trails that they were trying to find anything, but nothing came of it. There were no videos on the phones of the murder. They were looking for everything. There were no strings of calls between numbers leading up to or after the murder. So that kind of became a dead end. And I believe that anyone involved, anyone that had those numbers, were cleared. There are conflicting reports that Missy was having an affair.
How long had they been married at this point?
So they got married in 98. So it would have
98,
been, I think,
2008, 2018, so 18
yeah.
years.
So they'd been together like 20 years or more, I believe, at this point. So I I hate infidelity. I think it fucking sucks. But that absolutely never warrants someone being killed. And I really hate when a victim's reputation, typically a woman's,
Mm.
gets dragged through the mud like they deserved what happened to them. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Was there any evidence to suggest that she was having an affair?
Well, I'll kind of get in
Oh, okay.
get into that
God,
a little bit more too. See, it's nothing but questions, and they
I
nothing
am
gets answered.
increasingly getting frustrated.
Nothing was confirmed, but this opened up the door to the possibility of maybe a jealous wife or girlfriend. Love triangles are the deadliest of all shapes, Carrie. So it just is never good. So apparently, a few days before she was killed, Missy actually showed one of her friends a really strange message that she had received from a guy on LinkedIn, which is typically like a
Professional.
yeah, a site, site for networking and getting
Yeah.
jobs and blah blah blah. She didn't know who he was, but the message he sent was just kind of creepy and strange. There is not much more than that about him or the message, but he must have been investigated and cleared. It's just like all these little things pop up, and then you're like, but what about it? I guess nothing.
Hmm.
So police ended up looking into her LinkedIn account, and they did find some messages that were pretty personal and flirtatious that she sent back and forth with another user in January of 2016, so earlier that year. And so at some point, that conversation completely stopped. They were deleting the messages as they sent them. And it's unclear if they ever met in person or if this was just kind of a series of flirty messages that were sent back and forth. So, regarding the rumors of infidelity, just is there's nothing that's been confirmed or been released. If it happened, nothing has been confirmed about when it took place, with who, if it was more than once, nothing. And if there was an affair or multiple affairs, the person or persons have been investigated and cleared of any involvement because there's been nothing more out there. There have been no suspects. And it's also unclear if the quote unquote infidelity was just in relation to those kind of flirty messages, or if there were other instances, or if any physical interactions actually happened. Like, I truly don't know.
I assume that police went through her phone records, her cell phone
Yeah.
records.
They went through
If she was
everything.
having an affair, I believe if she was having an affair, they would have picked up on that thread.
Yeah. If she was and they were like, it ended, they have a solid alibi, why drag their name through the mud? Like, they're cleared. We're just going to keep that to ourselves. Like, there wouldn't be a reason to
True.
throw that out there. So it seems like there's a lot of people that they have investigated and cleared, but they haven't had a need to release their names.
Yeah, because either way, it if she was having an affair, it's irrelevant to her murder, clearly.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, but did that person have an ex-girlfriend that was jealous that
Well, that's what
could have
as soon as I said it's irrelevant to her murder, I was like, well, but it could in the future not be irrelevant if there was because you that deadly
I
triangle.
know, they're the worst.
Brandon was questioned and cleared. He is not considered to be a
No, there
suspect.
was nothing in his financial records, phone records, nothing that indicated that he had any sort of involvement with hiring someone.
You mentioned that there were financial strains. Were the police able to validate and verify
They
that?
didn't say it, just said that Brandon denied anything.
Huh,
But
okay.
there's been nothing that's been reported about like life insurance policies or anything like that that would have given
Mm.
him any sort of motive for killing her. So the day after the murder, Brandon actually chose to give a statement to the media about his wife, which is another video that you can find online. I think it was kind of like he was like, I'm gonna give just a real quick statement, but then I'm gonna go on for fucking ever. Like, and like he just stood out there and talked to reporters forever. I think he's just a chatty guy. But a lot of people scrutinized his behavior after her murder, saying that he didn't seem very upset and wasn't acting the way that a grieving husband should. In this particular video, he actually is urging people to go watch the video and watch it very closely and see if they recognize a suspect. To me, that's not really something that someone who that person could lead back to them would do. I think he's
Yeah,
truly is like, help me
I
find
agree.
out who did this to my wife. And
Yeah.
he also just asked for privacy for his family while they were grieving the loss of Missy. And I think that part of him choosing to speak with the reporters was like, look, I've got three sad kids in here that we still can't make sense of this. This is very new. We're grieving. Like, I'm going to make this statement so that you guys leave us alone.
Yeah. No, I his focus should be on his children.
Yeah. I mean, and this comes up in so many cases, but everybody grieves differently. I was trying to kind of like put myself in his position. And I mean, he was out of state on a trip, got a call that his wife had been in an accident, and then found out that not only was she dead, but she had been brutally attacked and murdered. He had three young grieving daughters that he was trying to be strong for. And I just can't imagine what appropriate behavior would have looked like.
Mm.
But maybe it hadn't hit
Well,
him
that's
yet.
you don't fucking know. If you've never gone through having a loved one being brutally murdered, you don't know how you're going to react. A lot of people will disassociate because it's a defense mechanism.
And that pain and that trauma and just the reality of the situation hits people at different times. Some people it's immediate. Some people it's a week later, a month later, and you're like, holy
Mhm.
shit, my wife is gone.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to stay strong for your children or for other people, you
Yeah.
kind of tuck your own emotions away. But so there was initially they looked into Brandon, but there was also a lot of suspicion around Brandon's father, Randy. So this would be
Oh,
Missy's father-in-law.
okay.
He apparently had a very similar walk to the suspect in the video. So a lot of people started pointing their fingers at him. They're like, "That's fucking
Really?
Randy." Yeah, like I think what the police wanted was for people to be like, "I know who that is."
Yeah.
And the people that came forward were like, "That's fucking Randy Beavers." And
I'm sorry, wait, what? His name is Randy Beavers?
mhm,
Randy Beavers.
Yeah,
I would like to have a drink with his parents.
I know.
Poor guy. I bet he got
I
teased.
know.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a bunch of Randy Beavers. That'd be funny.
I mean, they sound like
Anyway,
a real hoot
so I assume the police questioned Mr. Randy Beavers and cleared him too.
eventually, but so he also seemed to be a little unemotional or unfazed by Missy's death. So there was a lot of scrutiny there. Soon after the murder, I believe it was like 4 days after she was killed, there was what seemed to be a big break in the case at that time. Randy took some clothing into the dry cleaners to be cleaned, and two of the shirts appeared to have blood on them.
Like, how much blood? Like
I
spots? Like,
don't know specifically.
clearly enough for the dry cleaner person to notice.
So he stated in a press conference later that one of the shirts was his and one belonged to his wife. So either Randy told the person working at the dry cleaners that he was Missy's father in law, or they knew who he was. I saw kind of both reports. Again, this story is all over the goddamn place. But the person working at the dry cleaners was like, yeah, I'm gonna call police about that. And they did. And the police ended up taking Randy's fancy blouse or whatever it was to be tested. And when they questioned him, Randy told investigators that his dog had been attacked by another dog and was seriously injured.
Aw.
The blood on the shirt was from breaking up the dog fight and when they took their dog to the vet.
Aw.
The blood was
Puppers.
tested and it was confirmed to be animal blood. And the veterinarian confirmed that the dog fight did happen and that they had come to the emergency vet with their dog. Randy's dog actually ended up dying from its
Aw, I don't want to
injuries.
know
I
that.
know, which makes me so fucking sad. So it's like, okay, so yeah, it's shady as fuck that he brought in a bloody shirt. Like, what? Like, he wasn't dumb enough to
He
do
lost
that.
his puppers.
Yeah.
Aw.
And his daughter in law in a week.
Jesus. Hmm.
But also, as much as people were pointing fingers at this guy, he was in San Diego, California with his wife at the time of the murder. So Brandon's in Biloxi, Mississippi, and his parents are in San Diego, California with their dog.
Verified.
Yes, this was confirmed by the police based on flight, rental car, and cell phone records. They ended up flying back to Texas when they found out about what happened.
It wasn't a Randy Beaver.
It
Yep.
wasn't a Randy Beaver. Nope, nope. But I get that it seems a little suspicious that both Brandon and his father Randy just happened to be out of state
I get it.
the day of the murder,
Yeah.
which gave them convenient, rock solid
Yep.
alibis. So
Nope,
then
I get
everybody's
it.
like, did one or both of them hire someone to kill Missy?
Exactly.
But police have never found any communication or any money trails that would indicate that they hired someone to carry out the murder. And to date, Brandon and Randy have both been extremely cooperative and completely forthcoming with police. There was like an interview with Brandon and he was like, "Look, I'll call the police and be like, "Hey, you might want to check out this or you might want to look into this person." And he said, "Most of the time when I call, they're like, "Nope, buddy, we already did it. Like we've already looked into that. We've checked that
Hmm.
off." And both Brandon and Randy have been like, "You know what? They can suspect me all day long because it means that they're still continuing to
Hmm.
investigate. So I'll take it."
Guilty people don't do that.
Exactly. As much kind of weird shit and how much you want to suspect them, they've been cooperative.
Hmm.
So, kind of back to the actual murder and what we know. Whoever did this used a hammer or some sort of small object to create the puncture wounds to Missy's body, which indicates a very personal attack.
Hmm.
There was speculation that it was a screwdriver, but so many details haven't been released about this murder. The suspect, could have easily brought a gun to kill her and been able to shoot her from a distance, but this type of attack was up close and personal. And so it's like, did they want to see her suffer? Did they want to disfigure her? Did they want to make sure that she knew who they were or deliver some sort of message as they were killing her? It kind of seems like this was someone who used just whatever shit they could find in their garage as weapons and tools to break into the church. There's some speculation that the suspect might have found some of these tools like as they were walking through the church. Either way, this just does not seem like a professional hit by a criminal mastermind.
No, professional hits, they get in, they do the job, they
Yeah,
get out. They're not in the actual crime scene, so it's less evidence. Yeah.
So there's tons of theories and again, speculation about this murder. The suspect was obviously wanting to conceal their identity by wearing the police gear, but they might have also been wearing that specific gear in case they were busted doing whatever illegal shit they were doing. Whether it was like robbing the church or waiting for Missy to arrive, if someone else had walked into the church, like a janitor or something, maybe they could say, it's cool. I'm a police officer. There was a report of a break in, and I'm just here to investigate. No worries.
Mhm.
That cover might have given them time to, get out of the building without someone confronting them or their cover being blown.
I think it's pretty clear that whoever that person is was the one that killed Missy.
Oh, for
For
sure.
sure.
Yeah,
No
for sure.
question.
Because there's no one else on the cameras.
Mm-mm.
There's no other reason for them to have been in the church.
And what's really frustrating is that we have video. It's not useful.
Yeah,
It right now it's not useful.
right. Or the portion that we're allowed to see. There may be so much more on that
But if there was
footage.
so much more, they'd be further along in
I would hope
cracking the
so.
code.
I would hope so. Was the person cruising the gun store parking lot the same person who killed Missy? Did they get there earlier than they intended and just needed to kill some time? I've certainly done that. Like, I'll just pull into a random parking lot and wait 10 minutes before I get to my destination.
I want to. How did the police even find this video? Were they just like starting to hunt to be like the exterior cameras of the church weren't working? So maybe we could like look. I mean, that's what they do with rings and doorbell cameras and things like that.
They gave no indication as to why that particular vehicle was
Well, I mean, it was
pinpointed.
acting sus because turning the headlights off and on and all that.
I mean, there's just so many unknowns, and it has been frustrating the absolute shit out of me. The results of Missy's autopsy and her cause of death have never been released. Details
Ah,
regarding the murder weapon have never been released.
okay.
It just is crazy. The Midlothian, Texas police chief.
The police of chief.
Nope, that is not right. Midlothian, Texas chief of police said earlier this year that their investigation into Missy's death is ongoing. This is not a cold case. They still have people looking into it, and that they've gotten more than 3,000 tips in the case, most of
Wow.
which have, held no helpful information.
Mm.
There's been so much gossip and so many rumors about who's responsible for this murder, but police haven't released the names of any potential suspects in this case. Not one.
Wow. That's because they don't have any.
And so police have withheld so many details about Missy's murder, which again, I totally understand that they have to
Mm.
do. But I wonder if they'll eventually release more information about what happened. I mean, they have released little more snippets of the video of the suspect over the years, but that's really it. And so much time has passed and no new leads or breakthroughs have been reported. Like,
Man.
Midlothian's just not that big of a city.
Mm-mm.
Someone has to know something and know who that is. So, if anyone has any information regarding the murder of Missy Bevers, please contact the Midlothian, Texas Police Department at 972-775-7624. So, want to give a huge thank you again to Karen for suggesting this case. Hopefully, it'll
That
be
was a
solved
doozy,
soon.
Karen. That was a
Yeah.
doozy. I am unsettled.
Isn't it just
Yeah.
like something? There's got to be something. And you're like, aha, no.
I don't feel good about this. This is solvable. I am convinced that whoever the perpetrator is, they were close enough to the sphere of Missy to know her schedule.
Yeah.
Whether they knew it on Facebook because they were part of the community or they had a friend that was a camper, whatever, I'm convinced of it. It makes me think like maybe it was, I'm purely speculating and theorizing at this point. I have no fucking idea what happened in this case, but I wonder, you know, maybe she was being stalked and she didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And this stalker, male or female, doesn't matter. This stalker loved her to death. I don't know.
Yeah. It seemed personal. It seemed,
My God,
I
that
don't
is
know.
tragic for the kid, for her husband and the kids, for her whole
Yeah.
family, her friends. Not knowing can eat you alive.
It was also kind of, it made me sad a little bit, but also like, aw. Whenever Brandon was speaking to the reporters and he was like, we just asked for privacy and whatever, he was like, I think that Missy's fitness world was a little bit foreign to Brandon. Like he knew she did it, he knew she loved it, whatever, but he wasn't really involved with it. And I don't think it was until after she was killed that he realized like the impact that she had on so many people. He was just kind of saying like, I didn't realize the impact that she had on so many people, which is like,
That is so sad and endearing at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fuck.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything, even if you don't think that you're just like, nah, that's nothing. It doesn't matter. Call the number that Jamie just shared.
And I would encourage, I know that you're going to watch it, like you'll watch
For
the
sure.
surveillance footage, but I encourage everyone to watch it. And feel free to leave us a comment on our Facebook or Instagram
And what you
pages
think. Yeah.
or our YouTube channel and just tell us what you think happened to Missy or who might have been involved, like if you think it was a male or female. And be sure to follow us or subscribe to our channel while you're there. But yeah, I would love to know what everybody's opinions on this is because I think everybody has them, but there just are no answers. And you're left like,
Uh-huh.
damn. And I really think that when investigators saw that video, they're like, oh, bam, this is a
Got this.
slam fucking dunk. And then crickets.
Man.
It's just been dead end after dead end. And this thing is so solvable.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad the police department is not giving up. I'm glad they are
Yeah, for sure.
actively working the case.
And it seems like there's a lot of people that are reaching out, keeping it relevant, keeping it active, asking questions. And so that's great too. Anyway, as always, thank you guys for listening to Crime Will Tell and for sharing the podcast. We really appreciate you guys. And
We definitely do.
with that, goodbye, Care Bear.
Goodbye, Jamie Mimi.
I'm not like a chipper fucking cheetah.
What? Where'd you go? What happened?
I mean, goddamn.
Let me finish chewing my animal cracker. It was a hippo.
Okay, that was a waste of fucking time. Thanks.
Well, hello, Wisconsin.
I've never asked because I don't care.
Sounds like a whole lot of not fun.
Let's do 1, 2, 3, and a clap. Ready?